Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to the Spontaneous Brilliance Podcast. As always, I am super excited to be here chatting with you. So I was talking with my producer recently, and we were discussing the fact that as I talk with people about the Metaphorical Metaphysical Guide to Life that Spontaneous Brilliance is, they love what we talk about here. They love what I talk to them about if they're a client or just in conversation with folks. You know, it's very both uplifting and entertaining to noodle with these ideas. And I find that people love being reminded of, or in some cases introduced to, the concepts and the inspiration and the awareness. And then I find that over time, as we all do, I and everybody I talk to about this, even, my staff and folks that I've worked on it with for years, we skip parts or we forget parts or we don't practice it every day or we don't integrate it into every circumstance. And so I started to think, hey, and Shelley started to say, hey, we need to go back to basics. And I do want to go back to the basics. I do want to get back to the crux of it, but not like a review. I want to go into how do we take the basics into overdrive. So with each one of the basic concepts that I wrote about in Spontaneous Brilliance, or that I've talked about here in all these multitude of episodes, we're going to address that basic concept. And then we're going to look at what's the next level thought about that and how do we integrate that. So the first premise, the subtitle to Spontaneous Brilliance, is Unleash the Power of Your Unique Creative Genius. And that gets to the heart of the matter that everyone, every single soul incarnate on this planet is a unique creative genius with a passion and a purpose they came here to share. And when we look at every single human being on this planet, if we don't see their genius, that's on us. If they don't see their genius, that's on them. But if we don't see their genius, that's on us. Because everybody incarnated here on purpose, both to mean intentionally and to mean in alignment with a sacred purpose that they alone have to bring here. They are a unique creative genius. They came here to create something. And so that's the review part. But the next level thought part is, where did that purpose come from? And I know that we've talked about this, and I know that you know the answer to that question if you just pause for a second, or maybe you didn't even need to pause for a second. But where that purpose comes from is from our soul, from that spark of divine source energy that is us. Our soul, our higher self, the player self on the great stage of life, right? The player self, that higher self came here to experience the life that you have. Came here to play the character in the story on the great stage of life that you are experiencing. This was intentional. This was chosen. You cast yourself, and you chose the super objective of that character, to speak in actor language, right? You chose what the purpose of this life was. And when I say you, I am not talking about the egoic self. I'm not talking about the character. I'm saying your soulful self chose all this. And so when we look at this from the perspective of who am I truly, I am truly this spiritual being here having a human experience. When I look at this truly, then what is that genius? What is my passion? What is my purpose is a critical question. Before we step out the door in the morning, what am I here to do? What is the next step I need to take on the path of my purpose? And I'm willing to bet bazillions of dollars, whether I've got them or not, that most of us don't think that, don't ask that question of our higher self before we walk out the door in the morning. The supermajority of us do not say first thing in our head or out loud when we wake up in the morning, what is mine to do today? What is the next action step or steps that I take today on the path to fulfilling my purpose that I came here to share, to sharing my unique creative genius? So, number one, taking it into overdrive thought is let's get into that practice, because practice makes perfect, right? And when we're saying that we don't integrate it, it's because we're not practicing it. We're not developing a daily practice. And practice, as we know, is what allows us to then forget the logistics, the moment-to-moment logistics, and just live from that authentic place. It's like driving a car. You learn to drive a car, and at first, you have to think about every little thing. And then eventually you're driving a car and you never think about gas, clutch. Well, maybe if if you've never driven a clutch, then suddenly you have to relearn to drive a car. But back in the day, I used to love to drive cars and shift gears. That was so much fun. But I never had to think about it. It was happening in addition to whatever I was looking at on the road or the conversation I was having with a person in the passenger seat, whatever, because it became second nature. Same thing with rehearsing a play. You rehearse a play until you can let go of all those logistical thoughts and be present in the moment. And so we have to make that integration practice. We have to practice the integration. So every morning when you wake up, ask yourself, what is the next step I'm taking today in the direction of my purpose? Okay. Second thing about the metaphorical metaphysical guide to life is that the metaphorical part is that we are in this meta situation where we are here on the great stage of life. So everything in my 35, 40 years of teaching acting and teaching improv, every single technique that works to create a successful performance on the stage does the same thing when applied to the great stage of life. So that is the crux of the metaphorical world that we're in, right? So in that metaphorical guide, you are the player, you are the character, you are also the playwright. Okay, this story is your creation. Your soulful self is the player. The egoic self that you're here as, that you identify as, that has a name, that has a height, weight, hair color, eye color, that's your egoic self. That's the character you are playing. Your true self is playing. You are also the playwright. You are writing the story that this character is in as it happens. And you are also the director. You are the being. You are the energy holding the vision, understanding the vision for this lifetime, for this story, for this character. That's all up to you. And remember, and please never forget, that you have the most amazing producer in the universe, pun intended, because the universe is your producer. And it is a producer like no theater company even dreamed of, because this producer has unlimited resources and is happy to hand them to you. Whatever production you want to put on, that's what you get unlimited resources to do. So if you put on a production, a story, if you're writing a story that says everything is hard, you get so much hard, all right? You get so much reinforcement to that. You get so much backup to that. You get so many resources to tell that story. So many opportunities, so many wild and crazy things will show up in your life that will reinforce that story if that's the one you continue to decide to tell. So here's the taking the basics into overdrive part. When you get up in the morning and many times throughout the day, ask yourself, is this the story I want to write? I used to do that when and I was reminded in this bug that I had for a couple of weeks that I wasn't sick for years. I didn't catch a bug for years, no matter what happened to the people around me. And I remembered, which I had apparently forgotten, I remembered that what I used to do literally was I would start to feel a little something coming on. I would step into the bathroom, look in the bathroom mirror, and I would say, this is not the story I'm choosing to tell. I'm rewriting this story right now, and in it, I am healthy and feeling great. And then I would walk out, and I would never question that. Well, I got this bug because I fell back into old habits. Man, somebody around me was sick, namely Rex, was sick, and I started watching for signs that I was catching it from him. Hello. Ask and you shall receive. Show me a sign. Show me the sign. Where's the sign that I might be catching this? Oh, there it is. Okay, now I need to put all my focus onto that sign and see if it gets bigger, and then be surprised when it does. Okay, so clearly, I'm not just talking to you guys out there. I'm not talking to my clients. I'm talking to me. Because even though I literally wrote the book on the Metaphorical Metaphysical Guide to Life, I forget to do it. I forget that you can't play a negative. You can't walk onto the stage and play a negative. You cannot play. You cannot be active. You cannot be moving forward. You cannot be finding the love if you are focused on what you don't want. You focus on what you do want, right? Okay. Next thing. Life is a 24/7 improvisation. And in improvisation on the stage, there are only 3 things you're ever doing. You're only making an offer, accepting an offer, or blocking an offer. And we want to learn to be making those offers and accepting offers and not blocking offers. But here is taking that to the overdrive level, because I find that part of what I'm noticing that people are doing is that they are looking at offering, as long as whatever I'm doing in this moment, that's my offer. They're not taking responsibility for making the offer that is in the greatest alignment with their sacred purpose. They are going, I offered. My offer was to sit on the couch and eat Cheetos. We all know Cheetos is going to come and get me, so I might as well just lean into it, right? So if that is what we are using as an excuse, it's an offer. It's what I'm choosing to do. Okay. But then we have to own that and know that we just abdicated. It's not actually offering, it's over accepting somebody else's offer and letting it overwhelm us. When we binge watch an entire series in 48 hours, we are over accepting the creative offers of the people that made that show, right? Because it was not, well, theoretically, it was not intended for us to just swim in and have no life other than watching it. And so, yes, it was a creative endeavor, and they put it out there into the world, and it was their offer. Is it something that we want to accept into our world? Is it something that we want to have become a part of what we are feeding into our life? I've got 2 girls that, out of the 5, that love to watch horror movies. And, oh, geez, that is so not on my agenda of ways that I want to spend my time or think is entertainment. But they do. And so my phrase to them quite often is garbage in, garbage out. Then don't tell me what you're afraid of in life. Don't tell me oh my gosh, I don't know why, but man, I have a rotten attitude today or whatever. Well, you just watched a bunch of people be slashed up last night for 4 hours or whatever. So, or I couldn't sleep. That's my favorite one. I don't know why, but I couldn't sleep. Really? What were you doing before you went to bed? Oh, I was watching Friday the 13th for the 97,000th time. Okay. I can't imagine why that would be difficult to fall asleep after. But remember that we are meaning to, as good players here, playing our role here on the great stage of life, we are meaning to offer, to accept the offers that are coming from ourselves and from others, and accept everything that is coming into our life as an offer, with our ability to respond to it as we choose. Remember, our talent lies within our choice. But there is nothing that we are meant to surrender to lay down in front of. Just because a truck is coming down the road does not mean lay down and let it run over you because, hey, the truck was making the offer, I just accepted it. That does not make logical sense when we look at it that way, but we look at it that way when it comes to people, when it comes to circumstances, when it comes to something. If it's going to be real freaking hard to get out of the way of the truck, sometimes we just think, oh, maybe it'll stop. Maybe my offer is going to be to stand here and close my eyes. We have to do the work. We have to offer because every truck coming down the road is happening for us, not to us. For us. It is delivering something that we invited. There's the overdrive part. If it's in your life, you invited it there. Very recently, I did a podcast where I said, what is this trying to teach me? Is the question to ask yourself, myself, ourselves. What is this trying to teach me? What am I trying to teach me? Because it's only you teaching you. There is no grand force out there dictating your lesson plan. You signed up for the classes you signed up for in Earth School. You did. Okay? I did for mine. You did for yours. I can't sign you up for yours. You did. On a soul level, your soul registered, your soul cast itself in this play. And so one of the things that I find us doing a lot is we are blocking a lot more than we realize. I mean, we just started a new year about a month ago, right? So did we believe that this year is going to be a year with gobs and gobs of good in it? That I'm inviting good and only good and that everything is good. Everything is going to be a beautiful offer into my life that I have invited here. And everything is a step on the path to fulfilling my purpose. Do we believe that we are going into a year that is beautiful? How about the next month is beautiful? How about the next week is beautiful? How about today is beautiful? How about every day is beautiful, glorious, and blessing-filled? And do we feel that way? Do we remember to find our way back to that every day? If not, how come not? What is it that we are doing? Blocking much, right? Are we? Okay, so when we have those repeat feelings of doubt, of fear about what's coming, or we have those repeat feelings of blame, shame, or guilt because of what has happened before, we're either blocking the future or we're blocking based on the past. When we're blocking the future, we're blocking based on something that hasn't happened yet and is likely never to happen, or we're blocking based on something that happened in the past that we are dragging with us, right? We've talked about that recently. So blame, shame, and guilt are biggies, and they're whys, right? There is no why. Another spontaneous brilliance concept, there is no why, right? Why doesn't help us. We need to look at the what. And remember, we can't play a negative, so we don't say what we don't want. We don't want blame, shame, guilt, right? We don't want fear. We don't want doubt. We don't want blame, shame, guilt. So what do? We actively replace them. Rather than focus on what we don't want, we focus on what we do want. Gratitude, forgiveness, and love. Because, say it with me, folks, most important thing Mario Saletti ever said to me, you've got to find the love. You've got to find the love. And in this case, you got to find the love as the player. In other words, you, the character, has to look at your player self, get in touch with your player self, and discover that connection of love with your player self that makes you a direct conduit from your soulful self's intentions right into this character that is your egoic self on the great stage of life, right? So find the love. Find the love for this character, every aspect of this character. we get into a lot of self-loathing with this character that we're playing. We forget that we are this beautiful, soulful self that cannot be anything but beautiful, anything but pure source divine energy. That's all it is. So that's all we are at our essence. And yet we get real wrapped up when we get here. We get this amnesia on this planet, and we get the amnesia about this character that we're playing, and we forget our player self did this out of love, brought us here out of love. Love for the opportunity, love for the experiences, love for all of the things we are going to get to offer and grow through and discover and experience. So as you are accepting 100% responsibility for always finding the love, you're finding it for the character, you're finding it for your player self, you're also finding it for the playwright, and you're finding it as the director, and you're finding it for all your other players. Because when we get stuck in blame, shame, guilt, fear, doubt, we have somebody else in this story that we're offering that to, not just ourselves. We don't, any of us, just sit in the corner for our entire lives, just blame, shaming, and guilting ourselves and never having done anything or had somebody else offer something into our lives that was unpleasant. We carry our behaviors from the past around and our potential behaviors from the future around. We carry somebody else's behaviors from the past around and somebody else's potential behaviors, thoughts, feelings from the future. We carry that all around, and we have to let it go. We have to set it down. We talked about it being the books in the backpack a couple episodes ago. Well, okay, we're setting it down. And the overdrive part is to actively notice in every moment. This is not a theoretical practice, you guys. This is an every moment of every day. If you've got any of those things going on, if you've got blame, shame, guilt, fear, any of that happening, then you've got to actively choose to, acting is active, right? Here on the great stage of life, you've got to actively choose to replace it with the positive offer. So you are offering into your own life that you are going to be in love, be in gratitude, be in forgiveness. Okay? Ho'oponopono your ass off, as I am frequently want to say. So remember that in this beautiful, glorious life that you're living, in this metaphorical, great stage of life, you are an infinite being. You are playing a role in human form. You are creating the world you are living in. You are creating this moment, and you are creating every moment in your past and every moment in your future. And I mean you are creating it, because your past doesn't exist except what you create in your thoughts now. Okay? There's an overdrive reminder. Your past is nothing but the thoughts you think about it now. So you're creating it. End of story. Own that. That is your responsibility. You are writing the story as you go, including your rewrites of the backstory, because we all do that one too. We go back and we rewrite what came before, and we reframe it all the time so that the hero of our story, which is hopefully theoretically us, comes out better and understood, and sort of, we've got the justification, right? We have found out why it was okay for us to do what we did, or think what we thought, or feel the way we felt, or why what somebody else did justified what we did. And whenever you are, again, another Mario Solettiism, which I know I've shared with you before, never explain and never complain. In your art or in your life, both are boring. And just as Olympia Dukakis used to say, fear makes us boring. Fear is boring. She would say fear is boring. I turned it into fear makes us boring. Explaining, complaining, being afraid, it makes us boring. We have to recognize that the active choice that we make is what is creating our story. And we have to remember that as these divine beings, as these rays of source energy in human form, as these players playing these characters, also these playwrights, we are also the director. We have to, as any good director does, always look back to what is our concept? What are we trying to do with this production? What are we trying to do? What did we commit to do? What did we all get in this production for? And that's the director's job, to hold that vision when it gets hard, when stuff starts to wobble. Your director self brings you back to the vision. And remember that the universe is the source of a limitless supply. Your producer will hand you anything you ask for. So ask for the resources you want to live the life of your vision. The life of your dreams is what people will say. I'm going to say the life of your vision, your directorial vision for the production you want to create, for the character you want to play, for the story you want to tell. Then you need to lean into asking your producer, your universal, limitless producer, for the resources you want to fulfill your desire. Because your desire is that inspiration, just like any good writer, any good director, any good actor, you have that inspiration, which is where everything starts. Ooh, the idea comes. So the idea came, the inspiration came, the breath in came to the soulful self, and whoosh, out we came. We're here on the great stage of life. And now we get inspiration. We breathe in the divine desire, and that is not meant to be overshadowed by the Cheetos and the next episode on Netflix. It's not meant to be spent on the couch, shoving it down, shoving it away. It's meant to be lived. When you have that inspiration, when you have that vision, take responsibility for it as the director of your production and get busy. Get your playwright self engaged. Ask yourself every morning, what is it that I am here to do? What is the next action step I am going to take? What is the story I am going to tell? What is the story I'm telling? And what is the next thing I need to do to have this story move in the direction I desire it to move in? And you are limitless, just as your producer is limitless. You are limitless. The opportunities for the story you want to tell, limitless. So don't start inventing those limits, because they don't exist. Wake up in the morning, know what you are creating. Get the feeling, the attitude, the intention settled in your mind and heart before you get out of bed. And then practice it all day. Remember to come back to forgiveness, to come back to letting go, to come back to gratitude, to come back to love. Always at the center of everything, find the love. Always offer, accept, and check yourself. Are you blocking? Remember, if in doubt, offer. When in doubt, you're probably blocking. If you're in fear, you're probably blocking. Okay? If you're in guilt, if you're in shame, if you're in blame, you're definitely blocking. So replace them. Turn it into an offer. Take charge of your story. Take charge of your production. You choose. You have 100% responsibility for this beautiful, glorious, blessing-filled experience that you came here to experience. All right? Embrace those obstacles. Know that they are making that production so much more adventurous, so much more special. You are growing so much. Love into that, learn into that, lean into that, and know that this is all your creation. All right, my beautiful one, have fun. Have a great day. Have a beautiful, glorious, blessing-filled day. How about that one? All right. And I will talk to you again soon. The Spontaneous Brilliance Podcast is brought to you by Miracle Communications Group. Our producer is Michelle Oneida. Sound engineer is Corey Michaels at Corey Michaels Productions. Music is composed by Rex Miller. And I'm your host, Sandra Kavanaugh. You can learn more about me and all things Spontaneous Brilliance at sandrakavanaugh.com or spontaneousbrilliance.com. And please join the conversation here at the Spontaneous Brilliance Podcast by emailing us at podcast@spontaneousbrilliance.com. And have a beautiful, glorious, blessing-filled day.